Um, so the U.S. men's national team is making a historic World Cup run right now. And at the exact same time, the American youth soccer system is completely broken. Both true right now, simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really jarring contradiction to sit with, especially, when the flags are flying everywhere and the stadiums are just totally packed.
Right. It feels like a massive disconnect.
It really is. But we aren't just making some dramatic observation here. The leaders of U.S. soccer actually went on the record just this week and admitted it themselves. Like, they know the foundation is cracked.
Which is wild when you think about the literal billions of dollars flowing through the sport right now.
Exactly.
But when you look at the actual data we've pulled for this deep dive, we've got numbers from McKinsey, the Aspen Institute, some really deep reporting from Axios. Those billions are actively hiding the real victims of this contradiction.
Yeah, the money just covers it all up.
Right. So we are not doing a financial audit today. We are going to find the actual kids living on the broken side of that equation. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, if we want to truly understand how this system operates, we have to look at the people trying to navigate it. So let's look at Haley Grabowski.
Okay, who is she?
She is an 18-year-old midfielder from Kansas City.
Which is a massive soccer market.
Huge. And Haley is incredibly talented. She actually just won a state championship, and in the fall, she is heading off to play at San Diego State.
That's awesome.
It is. But there is a detail in her story that really stands out. She played for a private school, and her mother didn't even know the high school had a soccer team until she stumbled across it in an old yearbook.
See, that stops me in my tracks right there. Because it makes you really question what we call a developmental pipeline.
Right.
Like, if a family isn't already embedded in that specific private school infrastructure, what happens to her story?
That's the big question.
Does she even play? I mean, it doesn't feel like a pipeline at all. It feels like a toll road.
That toll road metaphor is, well, it's exactly what the data shows us. Because those private clubs, the ones charging the tolls, they didn't just appear out of thin air.
Right, they came from somewhere.
They were invited in. Local governments, facing budget cuts over the last few decades, they signed exclusive use agreements with private soccer companies.
Wait, invited in? But local parks are funded by taxpayers. Are you telling me private clubs are essentially commandeering municipal land?
That is exactly the mechanism, yeah. Cities just couldn't afford to mow the grass or line the fields.
Oh, wow.
So in exchange for maintaining the fields, the private clubs got priority access. The public parks became private pathways with a public address.
That's just crazy to think about.
It is. The gate has no lock, but the fee is the lock. A $11,188 average fee is more effective than any padlock at keeping a family out.
It's completely invisible until you hit it. I mean, think about the public park at the end of your street. You might walk down there on a Saturday with a soccer ball, and you literally cannot play on the grass your own taxes pay for.
Because a private entity rented the space for the season.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is our public resources have effectively subsidized private exclusion. The fields are physically there, but the community is locked out by the price tag.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We see this in massive public school systems like the Los Angeles Unified School District, where public infrastructure is so stretched that private money just dictates who plays.
And Axios had some data on this, right?
Yeah, the Axios data backs this up with some really stark realities. 2 in 3 park and rec departments say they lack sufficient fields to meet their community's needs.
Man.
And furthermore, 4 in 5 lack volunteer coaches. The public infrastructure essentially hollowed itself out and handed the keys to pay-to-play organizations.
That is a massive structural failure.
Yeah.
But, Haley's story shows us the barrier at age 18.
Yeah.
I was looking through the Aspen Institute data, and what shocked me isn't where this toll road ends, it's where it starts. It starts before these kids can even string a sentence together.
You're talking about Jude Cornell?
Right. Jude is 17 months old. He lives in Lenexa, Kansas.
Which is, what, barely 20 miles away from a World Cup stadium hosting matches as we speak?
Exactly. His mother, Kyra Cornell, is already plotting out his soccer trajectory. She takes him to this local library event, and it's filled with what they call messy toddlers.
Messy toddlers, I love that.
Yeah, kids who are literally learning to pronounce the superstar's name before they can say complete sentences.
That's wild.
You see a 17-month-old kicking a ball, and the enthusiasm is just infectious. But it brings up a huge disconnect for me. Because enthusiasm is universal. Access isn't.
No, it really isn't.
So how do we reconcile that early library floor passion with the Aspen Institute's finding that only 7.5% of 6 to 12-year-olds actually played youth soccer in 2024.
Well, that 7.5% represents a massive drop-off. And that cliff face between 17 months and 6 years old, it doesn't appear all at once.
Right.
It builds gradually. First, the informal neighborhood kick-around becomes a registered program.
Okay, so maybe a $50 sign-up. Manageable for some, but already a barrier for others.
Right, exactly. Then the registered program requires a uniform kit.
Oh, you can't just wear a t-shirt.
No, you need the branded shorts and socks. Then the uniform kit requires traveling to a facility 3 towns away on a Saturday.
Which means a parent needs a reliable car and weekends off from work.
Yes. Then the facility requires a tournament registration, complete with hotel stays and gas money.
Wow.
And then just like that, the kid who was learning to say Messi at a library in Lenexa, Kansas, is 16 years old and hasn't played organized soccer in 9 years.
That is just so incredibly frustrating.
Because at every step, the toll got a little higher. And nobody called it what it actually is, a filter.
A filter that operates entirely on family income and parental free time, completely disguised as a sports league.
Exactly.
At each rung of the ladder, a parent has to make a financial choice, not an assessment of their kid's talent or passion.
And we can see what happens when a family can successfully navigate that filter by looking at 9-year-old Scarlett Underwood from Wisconsin.
Okay, tell me about Scarlett.
She plays for Wisconsin United FC. She started playing when she was 6, but she recently had this incredible moment that turned her hobby into a full-blown obsession. She got to meet USWNT star Trinity Rodman.
Oh, that's huge.
It is.
So what does this all mean? Look, it's a great moment for Scarlett, but it also highlights the hidden privilege embedded in the system.
How so?
Because you have to ask, how did Scarlett get to Trinity Rodman? Who got her into that room? Access to inspiration is often just as commodified as access to the field.
That's a really good point.
If you think about it, for every Scarlett who gets that moment, how many girls never even get close to that room?
And we can actually quantify who gets left out of those rooms. McKinsey's data on economic mobility and belonging maps this out clearly.
What does it show?
The data shows that access to these inspiring environments as spaces where intergenerational wealth and community investment intersect is highly stratified.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
A child's zip code, their race, and their family's income completely dictate whether they feel they belong in the environment that produced a Trinity Rodman.
Which brings us to the core of this whole issue. We've talked about Haley, Jude, and Scarlett, but the Aspen Institute data points to a massive demographic that doesn't get a name in the press releases: the unnamed child.
Yes, and while this is a composite portrait, it is built entirely from hard data gathered by the Aspen Institute.
Right.
This unnamed child is between 6 and 12 years old. Statistically, they're likely to be Black or Latino, and they live in a community that does not have a soccer club within a reasonable driving distance.
And even if a club opened up down the street, remember that average fee you mentioned earlier?
The $11,188.
Right, $1,188.
Yeah.
For this child's family, that represents their entire monthly grocery budget. That's not a choice between 2 different extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
That is a choice between soccer and food.
Yeah, and when this child does manage to play, say, in a local underfunded league, the dynamics are tough.
In what way?
Well, the team is usually run by a well-meaning volunteer coach who, understandably but unfortunately, gives the most playing minutes to their own kid.
Oh, sure, the dad coach.
Right. The local leagues end up feeling isolating. According to the data, this unnamed child is 3 times more likely to have left the sport entirely simply because they felt unwanted.
I want you, the listener, to put this unnamed child side by side with the faces we just talked about.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast.
While Haley won a state championship at her private school, the unnamed child watched from the sideline. While Jude was at that vibrant toddler event, the unnamed family didn't even know it existed.
Right.
While Scarlett got to look Trinity Rodman in the eyes, the unnamed child never got to ask a single question. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, because right now, this week, the World Cup is playing in cities across America.
The biggest stage in the world.
And in every single host city, Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, there are unnamed children in the neighborhoods 2 miles from the stadium.
Wow, just 2 miles.
Not watching from the stands, not watching from the fan zones,
Where are they?
watching from a front porch. Through the noise of a city that has transformed itself for a sport they love and a tournament that was never built for them.
That is just heartbreaking.
It is. That is the specific image we're going to put in front of you next week. In Houston, Texas. 2 miles from the stadium. We found the neighborhood the World Cup didn't reach.
That contrast is brutal. You have these multi-billion-dollar stadiums lighting up the sky and kids who love the sport sitting in the shadows 2 miles away.
Yeah.
But it forces us to look at the macro scale. Why is America like this when the rest of the world isn't?
That is the big question.
Listen to former USMNT goalkeeper Tim Howard. He recently stated, point blank, the U.S. cannot, unequivocally, win the World Cup.
Ouch.
Right. Meanwhile, you have the current USMNT head coach, Mauricio Pochettino, coming in with this optimistic motto, "Why not us?"
It's a clash between the reality of our infrastructure and the aspiration of our athletes.
But look at that reality. Families in the U.S. are paying upwards of $4,000, sometimes $10,000 a year for elite travel soccer.
Oh, easily.
Meanwhile, a family in Europe might pay £200 for a local junior league. Aren't we essentially taxing our talent pool before we even know if they have any actual talent?
Yeah, we are.
We're filtering out the best athletes before they ever touch a ball.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to a structural difference in the global soccer economy. Globally, FIFA has mechanisms called solidarity payments and training compensation.
Okay, right. Explain that, because this is where the U.S. system seems totally backwards. How do those payments actually work in practice?
Think about a 10-year-old kid in Buenos Aires. He's incredibly talented, but his family has very little money.
Okay.
The local grassroots club doesn't charge him a dime. They pay for his boots, his travel, his coaching.
Why? What's the incentive?
Because under FIFA rules, if that kid develops and eventually signs a professional contract and then gets sold to a massive European club at age 18 for $50 million, that tiny local club gets a percentage of that transfer fee.
Oh, wow. So a small 5% cut of a massive transfer could fund that local club's entire operation for a decade.
Exactly. And here is the specific, measurable cost of not having that system. Argentina has produced Messi, Aguero, Di Maria, Tevez, all from low-income backgrounds.
All of them.
Yes. France produced Mbappe from a housing project in Bondi. Portugal produced Ronaldo from a working-class family in Madeira.
That's incredible.
None of those families paid all $1,188 a year. None of them were filtered by a toll road.
Right, because the clubs had a reason to find them.
Exactly. The transfer fee mechanism meant that the clubs actively sought those families out. In America, those families are invisible.
Wow.
Not because we lack the athletes, because we never built the system designed to find them.
Wait, if this system works so well globally and literally produces the best players in the world, why on earth doesn't the U.S. use it?
It's complicated.
Even with domestic professional leagues like MLS, why aren't there academies reaching deep enough to replace the pay-to-play model?
Because the U.S. Soccer Federation has historically argued that participating in FIFA's solidarity payments could violate American antitrust laws.
Antitrust laws. How does paying a youth club violate antitrust?
Well, it has to do with labor laws and restricting movement. In the U.S. free market system, you can't easily restrict an amateur child's movement between teams.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
And compensating a club for an amateur child's rights, essentially treating a player like an asset before they are a professional, clashes with American legal views on labor and free markets.
Ah, I see.
So the mechanism that funds global youth development is legally contested here. While MLS academies are completely free and try to bridge the gap, they only take a tiny fraction of players.
Right.
They are a drop in the bucket compared to the massive pay-to-play landscape.
So the practical result on the ground is that the financial incentive to develop a low-income player simply does not exist for an independent youth club in the States.
No, it doesn't.
Their business model relies on finding families who can pay the registration fee today, not developing a kid for a payout 10 years from now.
Right. Tom Ferry, the executive director of the Aspen Institute, in his congressional testimony, literally referred to it as a $40 billion a year industry where families are subsidizing private companies extracting profit.
$40 billion? That's absurd.
The commercialization leads to perverse incentives, more tournaments, more travel, earlier specialization, all to serve the businesses making money off the children, rather than serving the well-being of the children themselves.
That completely reframes Tim Howard's quote. He isn't saying Americans aren't athletic enough.
Not at all.
He's saying our system mathematically eliminates too many of our best potential players before the race even starts.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. Let's cleanly synthesize the journey you just went on with us.
Yeah, let's recap.
We looked closely at 4 children today, 3 of them named Haley, Jude, and Scarlett, one of them unnamed, representing the millions filtered out. We clearly have a universal enthusiasm for the game of soccer in this country. but we have a deeply unequal system of access.
Right.
That gap, the massive space between enthusiasm and access, is exactly where the broken system lives.
And if you take nothing else away from our analysis today, hear this. If you are watching the World Cup right now, or especially if you live in one of these host cities caught up in the excitement, it is crucial to recognize the reality of the data.
Absolutely.
The overall participation numbers in U.S. soccer are only growing because adult leagues are expanding. Youth participation among 6 to 12-year-olds is still trending down. You need to know exactly who is being left out of the massive celebration happening right in your backyard. This raises an important question.
In just a few days, the World Cup final will end. The flags will come down, the global cameras will pack up and leave, and the fan zones will be dismantled. When the $40 billion youth sports industry continues its relentless march the morning after, will the infrastructure left behind by this global tournament finally build a bridge for that unnamed child watching from the porch? Or will it just raise the price of the toll road even higher?